All right, this is just a quick 2-minute explanation of rendering intents and how they can affect your drawings. I have 4 stars on the screen here. The colors are exactly the same. What I did to make them was I created an RGB image over here and a CMYK equivalent of that image to the right there. So these two are the same. This one's RGB, this one's CMYK. Then down below, I went down and took copies of those two. And on this side, I went to bitmap and rasterized it. So I created a bitmap from the RGB image and a bitmap from the CMYK image. Now, what I want to do here is I'm going to do a saw proof. So I'm going to go up here and click on saw proof. Watch what happens. Those all look a little bit different. In fact, these look pretty much the same, but that's completely different. So the CMYK vector image in saw proof is giving me a different rendering than the one that's RGB, and these two actually look about the same. Why are these the same? Well, let's take a look at these, right? Let's go right here, and what I'm going to do, this is the vector artwork, so let's take a look here under color settings. And what I want to stress here is the rendering intent. So right now for CMYK, right, that's this one over here, and for RGB, that's under others. They're set to relative color metric, right? Relative color metric. The bitmaps down here are set to perceptual, okay? Well, how does that make a difference? Well, if I click on this bitmap down here and I look in the last tab of Design Central over here, what I can do is I can say, you know, let's change that rendering intent. It's actually set in my bitmap right now on the screen is set to relative. Right? If I set it to perceptual the way it's supposed to be, and then come down here and change that one to perceptual, you can see how they actually look a little different. In fact, when I go to default settings, normally it's set to default here. This is how it would have rendered. So in order to make those bitmaps, whether they're CMYK or RGB, look the same as my RGB bitmap here, all I need to do is take the bitmap, go over here and make sure that my rendering intent is the same as my vector image up here. Make this the same as my vector image up there. And then these three will look about the same. This one still looks different. And that's because it is a CMYK image. It is rendering a formula that's different than the location for the RGB formula. So it's basically a different green. So even though they look exactly the same on the screen, it's going to render differently, and that's the issue, right? That's the issue. So again, if I go to saw proof and then I go up to my color settings here and I go to color settings, I can change that. I mean, I can go to my rendering intent here, and for my CMYK column here for vectors, if I change this, say, to perceptual, watch the image, you'll see it kind of darkened a little bit. If I come back in here and we'll go to color settings again, and we're going to go to rendering intent, and this is the CMYK. That's the only part I'm changing here, right? I'm going to change it to maybe absolute. You can see it just shade changes a little bit. So CMYK images are going to render very differently than RGB vector images. But if I use RGB vector images and then I use bitmaps with that, and I want to use the same colors, as long as I do change the rendering intent to match the rendering intent of the vector artwork, which is typically the relative color metric. As long as I change it, make sure these two are the same, they're going to render the same color. Little quick. It's a little bit longer than 2 minutes, about 4 minutes, but I hope you enjoyed it.